Hey guys, welcome back. Um, Hope you've been doing alright. So I thought I'd do a review video today, and this came about because I decided to buy a couple of new decks for my new cartomancy stuff, my new hobby, let's say. I used to have only these two. The Golden Trophy 100% plastic, which is also new, relatively, and my old bicycle dragon back, which I do like a lot. So I'm pretty happy about this one, honestly. And the thing is, like, it's it's really the most classic design out there. So I'm pretty happy that this is one of my oldest decks. I also have a couple of others that I haven't shown yet. I've got this Santorini souvenir deck, and I also got the Sun King deck by Los Carabeo, which is a pretty nice deck, and I might actually talk about it sometime. So even though I don't like Los Carabeo, I actually do like this deck. So. But yeah, so I only had these two, and I was thinking, because I'm brainstorming for my own custom deck, which I may or may not make someday, and I was thinking might need a little bit more, a little more variety, So I got a couple more, but it took me a while to actually pick the decks that I wanted. So after long deliberation, I actually got these two, which are the Bicycle Marquis deck and the High Victorian playing cards. And I specifically got those because they have custom or like pretty unique like court cards. And this one also has some pretty elaborate jokers and aces. So they're both pretty nice. Honestly, I got exactly what I expected. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of Theory 11's decks as far as I've seen them so far. Most of them are a bit overdone and stuff, and this one is too. But I felt like this is the most neutral and at the same time most unique for me to at least give it a try. And it's a bit more expensive. It was like 15 euros. Well, this one was just 6. But they're about the same quality, more in terms of like the cardstock and stuff. But we'll get over those. So I think I'm gonna start with the Marquis deck today to show you what it looks like. And honestly, I'm the most satisfied with this one so far. So yeah, as you know, you got 2 ad cards, or 1 ad card and a double back card, which is normally for magic tricks, but I honestly kind of like the look of it, because you have now, it's kind of like a book, like the like the front and back cover. And I've actually experimented with including it in my readings. So now you have 55 cards, which aligns with including the jokers, which aligns with the Fibonacci frequency. So I was like, maybe that's something interesting. And of course I could use this card like for when I'm drawing more cards. If this one comes up, I know not to draw anymore, something like that. So I'm still kind of experimenting with what I could use this card for in cartomancy. But so other than that, it's a fairly straightforward deck. The font is a little bit different, and the symbols of the suits are a bit more elongated, let's say, a little bit more baroque, a little bit more, I don't know, they're pretty nice, honestly. I kind of like the design. But then we get to the faces, which are very soft and friendly, and so this deck, I researched it a bit. The imagery comes from the 1895 New Era number 46 deck, I think. Let me double check if that's correct. I have it somewhere here. I think it's number 40, number 46. Yeah, but I can't find it now. But so so it's Art Nouveau kind of style, but at the same time it feels kind of pulpy. It feels like a pulp style as well, and at the same time it has a little bit of the burlesque style, like in the costuming. So it's interesting. And initially I didn't really like it, but it's grown on me pretty fast and pretty well. And I actually really love this deck now. So as you can see, there's the King of Clubs, the Queen of Diamonds, the Queen of Spades. I like very much, and this is why I got this deck specifically, especially because I now I have my theories about about playing cards now. Right, so I told you about the 22 reversible cards, which may or may not align with the 22 trumps of the major arcana. But so I'm also kind of trying to rethink, especially because I'm I'm brainstorming about my Palatine deck. I don't know if I'm gonna make it a tarot or a deck of playing cards just yet, but or maybe both. But because of that, I'm kind of trying to think about the spades and like how to reinterpret them, and obviously, because the way I see it, the four suits are inspired by the four castes, right, or the four classes, let's say, of society. So you have like the peasantry are the clubs, the clergy are the hearts, the merchants are the diamonds, and the aristocracy, or the military. Well, it's kind of the same because it comes from medieval society, right? So the aristocracy is the warrior class, right? So they're the spades, so that makes sense, I think. But at the same time, the spades have a more military connotation, so you could relate that to like because in French they're called piques, right? So pique are the spear tips, right? So you could relate it to pole arms and like infantry and like mercenary companies and things like that. So it might be a little bit more ambiguous than that. But like personally, I like to associate the spades and consequently also the swords in tarot with the knights, with the old aristocracy of the High Middle Ages, basically. And this deck comes pretty close to that ideal, which I really enjoy. And what I also find interesting, so because these designs are from the late 20th century, 19th century, from 1895, they, the coloring isn't 100% the same on both sides. And so there are these minor little, typing errors that give it a certain asymmetry, which I really enjoy. I talked about it in a previous video, especially with regards to the Tarot de Marseille and things like that. And Jodorowsky was talking about how the tarot, the Tarot de Marseille takes care to not make any card fully symmetrical, because that's considered to be like, kind of cursed or kind of evil. So the asymmetricality, like even the cathedrals and stuff like that, they're asymmetrical. So that even if they're based on, how do you say? On geometrical patterns and geometrical symmetry, basically. They still have different artworks, different frescoes on the two sides and things like that. So there's a hint at symmetricality, but at the same time it's organic, right? So I enjoy like these imperfections, right? So here, for example, you see the glove, it has these gray lines as an overlay to create that color. And here it's they are like kind of pressed together, so it gives a different. It looks more like there's a crease in her sleeve there, and things like that. So you see these minor differences. Sometimes like the faces look a little bit different. It's like they're making a slightly different expression and things like that. And I don't know if they made that by hand. I don't think so. They might have had a technique to kind of copy these shapes. They probably did it on paper and just carved them out or something. But it's very impressive at the same time, because they are mirrored, but they also have these imperfections. So it makes me think that it was done by hand. So the Jokers are a new addition, and you also have the Ace of Spades right here, which is also a new addition for this particular deck, the Bicycle Marquis deck. The original, the New Era number 46 one had a different Ace of Spades, so which just looks like your regular Bicycle Ace of Spades. So I really like this one, and to see how it shuffles, it's both of the decks are very very thin, so the paper is very, I don't know, it's thinner than I thought it would be compared to my Dragonback one. But they definitely shuffle pretty nice. Nothing wrong there, but they do deform pretty fast. So I don't know about that, but that may I feel that may stabilize over time as I break them in, because I do think they are of the same thickness as the Dragonback. They just feel thinner. I don't know what it is, because it's about the same. The tuck box is the same size. I should maybe compare them just to make sure. Yeah, it's about the same. So I think these just got stiffer with time. If that makes any sense. Probably because it's how do you say, it's linen finish, so it might be that kind of congeals or something. But so anyway, this deck is basically what I expected. It actually surpassed my expectations to some degree. I could see myself reusing these patterns because they're not copyrighted, and I've already seen that there was a Kickstarter for a new deck that uses these designs. So I've been thinking about that, just adding these designs, changing the colors a bit, and adding those historical names. So like this would be Judith, I think. And this would be Alexander. And things like that. I don't remember them all. But I do want to experiment with those ideas. This would be Pallas Athena, and so on. So some food for thought. But honestly, in terms of readings, I have to say, let me just shuffle it a few more times and throw a few cards, see what comes up. I have to say that I really enjoy this deck. And that wasn't a very good shuffle. I don't know what happened here. My hands are a bit slippery, it seems like. Yeah, that's better. So yeah. Ace of Clubs. Yeah. So we got a couple of spades here. And as you can see, this Five of Spades, both of these are reversed, right? So I've been thinking about what that could mean, right? And obviously, like for example, like the spades, when they're pointing up, you could say they're spears, or lances, or swords, and when they're pointing down, they're either spades, but they could also be like an amphora, like a cup, actually. Right, and it's pretty interesting because I was watching some videos about the meanings of the suits and like the playing cards, and she was saying that the spades generally like mean the opposite of the rest of the cards, and especially the hearts, right? And they do look alike, but just upside down and then pierced with this shaft there. So they have kind of this implication of death, you could say. And obviously there could be war, there could be like digging a grave, like with a spade. But yeah, I still have to think about these things. I'm sorry. I know I wanted to make the next video or this video about this subject, but I still have a lot of work to do and to think a lot of stuff to think about, especially also with regard to the reversible cards, right? So what I'm thinking basically is that because the the only suit that has only one reversible card is the suit of diamonds, right? So the suit of diamonds is the most, let's say, positive ones, or the most unchanging one, and that makes sense as well because it's a diamond, right? So diamonds are super hard and they're hard to break, and to they use them for cutting like hard materials like granite and things like that. So they're unchanging. But the 7 of diamonds does change, right? So it is reversible. But that's just based on the number of diamonds on the card and their arrangement, and not so much on the suit itself. So what I'm thinking is that I also hear, that same lady that was doing that video, she was saying that the hearts are the most positive suit. But I think it's the diamonds and the hearts, because the hearts are reversible. And obviously you can have a broken heart. You can have bad feelings and things like that. So it makes sense that the hearts have some potentially negative cards, let's say. I mean, I don't know if we should interpret them as negative or positive just yet. And obviously it's interesting that in playing cards it's specific cards that are reversible and not all of them, right? And it's especially interesting that court cards are mirrored, so those aren't reversible most of the time. So there's an equilibrium there. So the hearts are not necessarily the best suit. I think the diamonds are the most, I wouldn't say best, because they're just the most resistant to change, right? The most stable suit. So the quality of the diamonds depends on the reading of each card, right? Some cards may be positive, some may be negative, and it's the same in the tarot, basically, with the coins. But so you have the hearts, you have the clubs that have the clubs, the hearts, and the spades have the same number of reversible cards. They're all 7 cards. So they all have, if the spade is the most negative suit, then it potentially has 7 potentially positive cards, right? So yeah, we get to the second deck. As you can see, we have the ad cards, the Theory 11 logo. They're both basically the same. I'm kind of disappointed with those. I was hoping maybe for a second back-to-back card, but no such luck. But so as you can see, this one is very interesting, right? It has these elaborate designs. So as you can see, wait, let me just go over the basics actually. Right, so this one's made in the UK, or designed in the UK, printed in the US. It's still US playing card company. The High Victorian playing cards by, what was the designer studio? Ye Old Studio. So not a very revealing name. But so the tuck is actually unique. It doesn't repeat on the backs of the cards, but it has some pretty beautiful patterns here and a lot of detail, right? And so the cards themselves are kind of like that as well. And there's a lot of stuff to discover here, like there's a bunch of Latin phrases. I don't know if they're on here. Not here, but they are on the cards, right? Not all of them, but some again. So yeah, so the court cards, they don't have faces for some reason. They're just these patterns, these arabesques, and these clockwork things, and they have these numbers to tell them apart. Because honestly, they kind of melt together, and they're kind of hard to tell apart. Honestly, if it's not for the numbers and stuff like that, and the numbering is pretty small, and the suits are pretty small, as the pips are pretty small as well. So I'm not entirely, and the pips just don't feel. They just kind of feel out of place compared to the court cards, honestly. But I mean, there's a couple of details like this here that may be interesting. The Ace of Clubs. Yeah, there's a bunch of Latin phrases, but I can't. So faber est quisque fortunae sua, and crescat scientia vita excolatur. So I don't know what these mean. I might have to, I'll probably take my time and look those up as they come up in a reading, because I think they might be interesting in a reading, to be honest. And I think this deck is pretty interesting for readings as well. I did draw a few cards, and I mean, there's definitely a lot to look at, but it might be a bit too busy for my taste, and a bit too how do you say, like too Byzantine or too rigid maybe. So here you have the 13, the king of hearts. But you do have interesting patterns like this, where it's still the Suicide King with the sword behind his head, so that behind the crown in this case. So it definitely does have. But so here we have like the King and the Queen of Hearts, right? And it's like, yeah, you can't really tell the difference. I mean, there's the numbers and there's the index. But so even the jacks and the aces, even the aces are kind of hard to distinguish. And what I also don't like is that they're reversible, right? So they're different this way, and that shouldn't be the case for the Ace of Diamonds. So yeah, I mean, I might not be able to tell the difference, but I don't know. It's gonna be different. I'm gonna have to work with it and see if I like it. But so far yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna be repeating myself, so I'm not gonna go through. Let's just shuffle the cards and see what comes up. These do shuffle very nicely, I have to say. And they don't deform as easily either, but they do feel as flexible as the previous ones, as the Marquis ones. But I do definitely, I think aesthetically, I do prefer the Marquis deck overall, because it's just more traditional, right? It's more pristine, and it's got interesting faces that are just human, They have a certain aura about them that's just very friendly. Ooh, okay. KJ6, all right. So yeah, we have two men here, we have a man and a young a youth, a fair youth, and a dark man, or was it the power? I've made some notes, so I'm still learning, right? Wait, so the power of work. Wait, let me just check my notes just real quick, just so I don't make a fool of myself. So we have the King of Clubs, the power to progress, achieve goals. So this is positive freedom, right? And then the Jack of Diamonds, a student, trust fund baby, a message concerning money, and then the Six of Hearts. The Six of Hearts is like it is upright as well. A trip, a holiday, emotional progress, emotional investment, stuff like that. So that's pretty good reading. So as you can see, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward. I mean, it's an interesting deck. I'm not sure what to use it for just yet. It might be for like more like practical questions about work and stuff like that, maybe, because it feels a bit more mechanical. But I might be wrong, you know. But so the aesthetic is very nice, like this Victorian vibe. But it may be a bit too abstract and a bit too busy, and some cards are reversible when they shouldn't be, and things like that. So, so yeah, pretty. I don't know. It is what I expected, just like the other one. So both of these decks. I mean, I already knew what I was getting, right? And I made the decision to buy them anyway, and I did it on purpose. I did it, you know. But so, so I'm not dissatisfied. I especially like the Marquis one, and as I said, I might actually recycle the artwork on this one for at least like a test version of my own deck, right? And just change the colors up a bit and make it a little bit more. Maybe even change the faces, because some of the faces I'm not particularly impressed by. Well, impressed is not a, but like for example, this it has a similar problem to the other one, because the kings are all heavily bearded, and they're kind of hard to distinguish from each other. And the same goes for the jacks, who all look like they all have the same haircut and they're all clean shaven, except for one that has a mustache. The Jack of Hearts, I think. But yeah, as you can see, same haircut, same hat. The Queen of Hearts is very, very pretty, though, I have to say. So there's that. There you go, the Jack of Hearts with the mustache. So, but he looks like a girl that has the mustache painted on. So I don't know, it might be interesting for a reading as well. But I really like this one especially, so I'm very happy with that. So 1 out of 2 isn't bad at all. And then lastly, before I go, so yeah, as I told you, I'm still working on my idea on the pips and the spades specifically, and I'm also working out my theories regarding the playing cards in relation to tarot. And with regards to that, I do have an update, because today I discovered the following thing, right? So I have these two tarot decks, which are the Genoese tarot and the Arcana tarot playing cards. And I'm bringing these specifically up because they're made in the same, you know, they're made in playing cards cardstock, right? So they're about the same thickness as the other ones. And so what happened today is I made 2 stacks just to keep them apart. So I put the playing cards tarot decks on top of each other, and then the playing cards on top of each other, right? And obviously there's some variation here, because this box is this tuck box is a little bit bigger. But so if you put them on top of each other, you know, I noticed that the top one, it was this one. The top one, oh, it doesn't work now. I had them this way, yeah. So I noticed that the top one just slid back and forth perfectly, you know. So they have just about the same height, and obviously, as I said, there's a little bit of difference, but at the same, you know, we have a bit of a bigger tuck box for the Modiano one, and this one is also a little bit bigger. So let me just show you. You know, there's a little bit of space between the cards and the tuck. So what that indicated to me, suddenly I started thinking, I was like, wait, so if we have 2 tarot decks, right, 78 plus 78 is 156, right? And then if you take 3 playing card decks, is 52 plus 52 plus 52 is also 156. So actually, 3 tarot decks, you know, the number of cards in 3 tarot decks, or sorry, in 3 playing card decks, are the same as the number of cards in 2 tarot decks. So you could almost say that a tarot deck, you know, if a deck of playing cards represents 1 year, a tarot deck represents 1.5 years. Obviously, numerologically, that doesn't work out, because the values on the major arcana are different, right? So you can't really I think you come out at like 802 in total. So that's like more than 2 years. But still, that did make me think that there might be a deeper connection between the two, right? Between tarot and playing cards. And maybe I was too hasty to say that the tarot is like a psyop of the playing cards, or vice versa. Maybe they both have their role, and maybe it's like left and right brain or something like that. So that's all stuff that I still need to sort out. But yeah, as my collection is growing, I'll be coming with updates. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing like reviews for playing cards. I don't think I'm gonna start collecting them. I just felt like I had to have a few more just to round it out a little bit and have some pretty decks to work with as well. And especially this one, I think, is going to be very interesting for inquiries on like historical matters and things like that. While this one is more personal because it's my oldest deck and I would probably just use it for personal readings. This one is very mechanical, so this one is the best. Look at this spread I got today, right? With this deck. 3, 5, 3, 5. And then 4. And then what happened was I put the deck down like this, and it slid open like this, and I got another 4 at the end as well. So it was 4, 4, 5, 3, 5, 3. And I actually have all the suits. I have one card of each suit in this spread. So I've got the clubs, the hearts, the spades, and the diamonds, and they came out in this order as well. So this might be a sign, actually, because if you look at it, the hearts are reversed. They're actually all the reversible cards, except for the spades, are reversed, right? So the 5 of clubs, the 3 of hearts, the 5 of spades is upright, and then the 3 of diamonds is irreversible. So it's a pretty interesting pattern here. So this deck just kind of seems to just kind of go crazy with numbers. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna, maybe like for statistical things or something like that. I haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, as I said, I'm still learning. I also want to point out that because this is relevant to like my theory on the spades and stuff like that. I do adopt like the folk interpretation of like the 4 suits, the French suits, right? So spades are earth, clubs are air, and then the hearts are water, and the diamonds are fire. And my theory about that is that diamonds, they're formed under heat and pressure, right? And they're red as well. But so, or like in this, in the French suit. So they symbolize like they're fire. They symbolize like heat and like coming up with ideas and like stuff like that. While the spades are they're like the lowest and the highest element. I used to think because I had this theory about the coins as well in tarot, that the earth is the only element that contains all the other elements, right? And usually they're depicted as pentacles as well, which is a symbol of the 5 elements. And obviously we live on the earth, right? So the coins are earth, but they are also, so they're both the lowest and the highest element because they contain all 4. And it's the same with the spades here, I think. But at the same time, the diamonds, being fire in a deck of playing cards, kind of confirms what I was thinking about the coins as well. They're both the same and different, if that makes sense. But the spades here, earth have the same function. They're both the highest and the lowest. They're both about honor and justice and duty, but they're also about like, because honor involves like the shedding of blood, let's say, or like setting things to rights, and usually involves like especially in like tribal times and stuff like that, and like in the Middle Ages, the noble houses, the aristocracy, They were basically like a mafia, right? They were a tribe, and and they had certain relationships with each other, and they had feuds, right? If one insulted the other, they would go to war against each other, right? Things like that. So that's what the spades represent, right? So they have a good and a bad side. Because the good side is honor, honesty, justice, protecting people, right? So you could also read the upside down spade as a shield, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of food for thought, lots of stuff to still think about. But I think I'm on my way for another book, right? I already wrote my Hand of Fate Poker Tarot method, so it looks like my next one. If I get around to it after, well, maybe before, depending on what happens. Might be a book on cartomancy, or the relationship between tarot and cartomancy, or the history of the shared history of the two and the relationship between them, and things like that. I haven't decided yet, as I said, but I'm definitely getting there. So yeah, hope this was interesting. Hope you enjoyed the decks. I would recommend them. I would recommend. So as I said previously, I do think I'm trying to live up to my words. Put my money where my mouth is, and actually learn the pips and the playing cards. And honestly, there's to some degree they may actually be more interesting and more liberating than tarot, right? Because the thing is, like, they are more open-ended. They don't have any pictures. They have fewer cards, so you kind of have to make do with what you have. But at the same time, once you start looking into it, there's more depth to it, and it's a more accurate calculation that they made to create them. But at the same time, as I said, bringing those two together, and and finding out that 3 decks of playing cards have the same number of cards as 2 tarot decks. Those are. I do think that shows that the tarot isn't accidental either, right? But I do think the tarot started out as a mnemonic tool for the real mysteries that are inside the playing cards, right? And that the like a bicycle with like baby wheels, with training wheels. So at some point, the point is to take those out and just work with the 52 cards, maybe. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Well, I'm still I'm still trying to find that out. So anyway, enough of my rambling. I'll see you guys next time, and have a great week. Bye bye.